Some people retire at 62. I declared bankruptcy, lost my house, my company, my reputation. My kids stopped taking my calls. I had $437 in my bank account and a mountain of debt I'd never pay off in my lifetime. My name is Walter Henshaw, and I'm 80 years old now. But this story takes me back to the worst day of my life, the day I lost everything I'd spent 40 years building. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I'm here to tell you that's garbage. Because at 62, with nothing but failure behind me, I started over. And by 80, I'd sold my company for $1.2 billion. This isn't a fairy tale. This is about blood, sweat, humiliation, and the kind of grit you only discover when you've got nothing left to lose. If you've ever felt like it's too late, like you've missed your chance, like failure has defined you, this story is for you. Don't just watch, listen, because what you're about to hear could change your life. I started Henshaw Manufacturing in 1965, right out of college. I was 22 years old with a mechanical engineering degree and more confidence than sense. My product was simple: industrial fasteners, specialized bolts, nuts, and screws for heavy machinery. Not glamorous, but essential. For 40 years, I built that company bolt by bolt, contract by contract. We supplied auto manufacturers, construction companies, aerospace contractors. By the 1990s, Henshaw Manufacturing employed 340 people across 3 states. We were doing $45 million in annual revenue. I had a beautiful house in Connecticut, sent 3 kids to private schools, took family vacations to Europe every summer. My wife Eleanor and I celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary in 2000. We stood on our back deck overlooking Long Island Sound, and I remember thinking, I made it. I built something that matters. But success makes you comfortable, and comfort makes you careless. Around 2003, I started noticing changes in the market. Chinese manufacturers were producing fasteners at half our cost. My sales team kept reassuring me, our quality is better, our relationships are stronger. American companies will pay for American-made. They were wrong. By 2005, we'd lost 3 major contracts to overseas competitors. I should have pivoted then, should have innovated, automated, found new markets. Instead, I did what desperate men do. I borrowed money to keep things running. I took out loans using the factory as collateral. I maxed out business credit lines. I mortgaged our house to make payroll. Eleanor begged me to consider downsizing, maybe selling the company while it still had value. I'm not giving up, I told her. I built this from nothing. I'm not letting some foreign company destroy what I spent my life creating. Pride? That's what they should call it. Not confidence, pride. The deadliest business mistake there is. Then 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit like a tsunami. Our remaining clients canceled orders overnight. Credit dried up completely. The banks that had been happy to lend me money 6 months earlier suddenly wanted it all back, immediately. I was 62 years old, standing in a factory that was silent for the first time in 40 years. No machines running, no workers on the floor, just me and the security guard I couldn't afford to keep, but didn't have the heart to fire yet. My accountant, Richard Kim, good man, worked with me for 20 years, sat me down in my office and showed me the numbers. We were $4.7 million in debt. Assets were worth maybe $1.2 million if we sold everything. He said, "Walter, it's over. You need to file for bankruptcy protection." I cried in front of him. 62 years old, and I cried like a child. Filing for bankruptcy isn't like you see in movies. It's not dramatic. It's bureaucratic, humiliating, and slow. Lawyers picking apart your life, creditors demanding explanations, employees you've known for decades looking at you like you betrayed them. We lost the house. Eleanor and I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a part of town we'd never even driven through before. Our furniture didn't fit. We sold most of it. 40 years of memories, photo albums, my father's war medals, packed into a storage unit we'd eventually lose because we couldn't pay the monthly fee. My daughter Rebecca stopped calling. She'd always been proud to tell people her father owned a manufacturing company. Now I was just another failure, another cautionary tale about American industry. My sons, Michael and David, were more direct. "Dad, you were too stubborn to adapt," Michael said during one terrible Christmas dinner. "You refused to see reality and you dragged Mom down with you." He wasn't wrong. That was the worst part. He wasn't wrong. The next year, I stopped leaving the apartment most days. Eleanor would go to her part-time job at the library. She had to go back to work at 60. And I'd sit on our worn-out couch watching cable news. I'd worked since I was 14 years old. 50 years of getting up every morning with purpose, with somewhere to be, something to build. Now I had nothing. No job, no prospects, no identity. Who was Walter Henshaw without his company? Nobody. Just another old man who'd failed. I gained 40 pounds, stopped shaving regularly. Eleanor would come home exhausted and find me exactly where she'd left me, sitting in the same spot, wearing the same clothes. One night, she sat down beside me and turned off the TV. "Walter, I love you. I've loved you for 37 years, but I can't watch you die like this." "I'm not dying," I mumbled. "Yes, you are. You're dying inside, and you're taking me with you. So, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, you're going to shower, get dressed, and leave this apartment. I don't care where you go or what you do, but you're not sitting here anymore." I was angry. Who was she to give me ultimatums after everything I'd lost, everything I'd been through? But that night, lying in bed unable to sleep, I realized she was right. I'd lost my company, my money, my reputation, but I still had Eleanor. And if I kept going like this, I'd lose her too. And then I really would have nothing. The next morning, I did what Eleanor said. I showered, shaved, put on decent clothes, or what passed for decent given our budget. I walked to the public library where Eleanor worked. I wasn't there to see her. I was there because I didn't know where else to go, and at least the library was warm and free. I found myself in the business section, pulling books off shelves randomly. One caught my eye, The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. I'd never heard of it, but the cover promised new approaches to building businesses with limited resources. I sat in a corner and read for 6 hours straight. When the library closed, I checked the book out and went home. Eleanor found me at the kitchen table at midnight, surrounded by notes I'd written on the backs of old envelopes. "What are you doing?" she asked. I said slowly, "I know what I did wrong, and I think I know how to fix it." Here's what I'd learned reading that book and a dozen others over the following weeks. I'd built Henshaw Manufacturing using a model that worked in 1965 but was obsolete by 2008. I'd focused on volume manufacturing, making millions of identical parts as cheaply as possible, but I couldn't compete with Chinese factories on cost. They had lower labor costs, government subsidies, economies of scale I'd never match. But what if I didn't try to compete on cost? What if I went the opposite direction? The fasteners I designed weren't just commodity products. Some of them were custom engineered for specific applications: aerospace projects, medical devices, specialized machinery. Those designs were still valuable. In fact, they were more valuable now because the originals were exactly what new technologies needed. I'd been trying to mass produce when I should have been specializing in custom, high-precision manufacturing for niche markets. Small batches, high quality, premium pricing. I still had the original blueprints and patents for dozens of custom fasteners I'd designed over 40 years. The bankruptcy had let me keep intellectual property. Nobody wanted it because they didn't understand its value. I needed 3 things. 1, a way to manufacture without owning a factory. 2, customers willing to pay premium prices. And 3, enough capital to get started. I had $12,000 from Eleanor's library salary and my Social Security checks. Not much, but it was something. I found a small machine shop in New Jersey that did contract manufacturing. The owner, a guy named Tony Marquez, was struggling for clients. I made him a deal. I'd bring him orders for custom parts, he'd manufacture them, and we'd split the profits 60-40 in his favor. "Why would I take 40% when I'm doing all the work?" Tony asked. "Because I'm bringing you business you don't have. And I'm betting my designs will bring you more orders than you can handle within a year." He looked at me, this old, overweight guy in a wrinkled shirt making big promises. But Tony had immigrant hustle. He'd come from Mexico with nothing and built his shop from scratch. He recognized the desperation of someone betting everything on one last chance. "Okay, viejo, let's see what you got." I went to every aerospace manufacturer, medical device company, and robotics startup I could find. Not the big corporations, they had established suppliers. I targeted startups and mid-sized companies working on innovative projects. My pitch was simple. You need custom fasteners that don't exist yet. I designed them specifically for your application. Small batches, fast turnaround, American-made precision. I got rejected 73 times. 73 meetings where people looked at me like I was wasting their time. The 74th meeting was with a startup called MedTech Innovations. They were developing a new surgical device and needed specialized micro-fasteners that could withstand repeated sterilization without corroding or loosening. The CEO was a woman in her 30s named Dr. Sarah Chen. She listened to my pitch, looked at my sample designs, and asked, "How fast can you prototype these?" 2 weeks, I said, praying Tony could deliver. Everyone else quoted me 6 to 8 weeks. Can you really do 2? "Dr. Chen, I'm 64 years old. I don't have time to overpromise. 2 weeks or I don't charge you." She smiled. "You've got a deal." Tony and I pulled 16-hour days to deliver that first order. When Dr. Chen's team tested the fasteners, they performed perfectly. Better than perfect. They exceeded specifications. "Mr. Henshaw, how much for 10,000 units?" That order was worth $47,000. My 40% share was $18,800. Eleanor and I cried when the check cleared. It was the first real money we'd seen in 3 years. Dr. Chen became my evangelist. She recommended me to other medical device companies. Each success led to 3 more meetings. Each satisfied customer told others. By 2013, I was working with 12 companies. Tony had to hire 3 more machinists to keep up with orders. We were doing $800,000 in annual revenue. My cut was over $300,000 a year. At 67, I was earning more than I had in my 50s. But more importantly, I was building something different than before, something smarter. As the business grew, I formalized it, created a new company, Precision Fastener Solutions, or PFS. This time, I didn't try to own factories or employ hundreds of people. I built a network. I partnered with 5 different machine shops like Tony's, each specializing in different manufacturing processes. I hired 2 young engineers to help with design work, both recent graduates willing to work for equity in a startup run by a 68-year-old man. I learned to use CAD software, online project management tools, video conferencing. My grandkids taught me. At 70, I was finally comfortable with technology my kids had been using since college. The business model was lean, flexible, and scalable. When demand increased, I added more manufacturing partners. When it slowed down, I had minimal fixed costs. I'd learned the expensive lesson about overhead. By 2016, PFS was doing $4.5 million in annual revenue. I owned 65% of the company. The engineers had 10% each. The remaining 15% was split among key partners like Tony. Around 2017, I realized we were sitting on something bigger than just custom fasteners. We'd developed a process for rapid prototyping and low-volume manufacturing of precision components. Not just fasteners, any small metal parts for specialized applications. We started offering design services, helping startups and inventors turn concepts into physical prototypes. We became known as the company that could make anything in small quantities, fast and precise. The robotics industry discovered us. Electric vehicle startups hired us. Space companies, the new private ones like SpaceX and Blue Origin, needed exactly what we offered: custom precision parts in small batches with quick turnaround. By 2018, we were doing $12 million in revenue. I was 72 years old and running a company growing 40% annually. In early 2019, I got a call from an investment banker in New York. A private equity firm had been watching PFS. They saw what I'd built. Not just a manufacturing company, but a scalable model for rapid precision manufacturing that could be replicated nationally. They wanted to buy us. My first instinct was to say no. I'd lost one company already. This one was mine, built the right way, and I wasn't interested in selling. But Eleanor reminded me, I was 73 years old. Walter, you've proven everything you needed to prove. You came back from bankruptcy. You built something remarkable. Now maybe it's time to enjoy it. The initial offer was $85 million. I countered at $120 million. We settled on $98 million, with $8 million in additional payments if certain milestones were hit over the next 2 years. I sold in June 2019. After taxes, paying out my partners, and settling remaining debts, Eleanor and I walked away with $52 million. At 73, I was wealthy again. But this time it felt different. This time I'd earned it the hard way. I stayed on as a consultant for 2 years, helping the private equity firm expand PFS nationally. They opened manufacturing networks in 8 states, hired a CEO half my age, and grew the company to $80 million in annual revenue. In 2021, a Fortune 500 industrial conglomerate acquired PFS for $1.2 billion. Under the terms of my consulting agreement, I received an additional $12 million from that sale. So, yes, the headline is true. Bankrupt at 62, billionaire at 80. Well, not quite a billionaire, but $64 million feels close enough. The money changed things with my kids. Rebecca called me after the first sale, proud again to claim me as their father. Michael and David reached out too. Awkward apologies for words said during the dark years. I'll be honest, there's still distance there. You don't quickly heal wounds that deep. But we're working on it. My grandkids don't remember the bankruptcy years. To them, I'm just Grandpa Walter, who tells stories about building companies and never giving up. Eleanor and I bought a nice house in Vermont. Nothing ostentatious, but comfortable. We travel now. Places we'd always talked about, but never made time for. Last year, we spent 3 months in Italy. This year, we're planning Japan. But the money isn't the point of this story. The point is what I learned getting here. When I lost Henshaw Manufacturing, I thought my life was over. I was too old to start again, too broken to rebuild. I believed the story I told myself, that I was a failure, that my one chance had passed, that you can't teach old dogs new tricks. All of that was a lie. The truth is, failure at 62 gave me something success at 40 never could: humility, flexibility, and the understanding that how you build matters as much as what you build. I built Henshaw Manufacturing with 1960s thinking. Own everything, control everything, scale through volume. It worked for 40 years until it didn't. I built PFS with modern thinking. Own little, partner strategically, scale through networks and specialization. It worked because I'd finally learned that the world doesn't care how things used to be done. It only cares what works now. If there's anything I want you to take from this story, it's these three things. First, it's never too late. I started over at 64 with $12,000. You're not too old, too broke, or too far behind. You're just not started yet. Second, failure is education. I learned more from losing $4.7 million than I ever learned from making $45 million. Bankruptcy taught me what 40 years of success never could. Your failures are preparing you for something bigger if you let them. Third, adapt or die. I almost literally died trying to preserve a business model that didn't work anymore. When I finally accepted that the world had changed and I needed to change with it, everything shifted. Stubbornness isn't strength, it's ego. Real strength is admitting you were wrong and doing it differently. I'm 80 years old now. I've lived two completely different business lives, one that ended in failure, one that ended in success. And honestly, I'm more proud of the second one, not because of the money, but because of how I built it. The old Walter Henshaw thought he had all the answers. He was arrogant, inflexible, and blind to changing markets. He lost everything because he refused to adapt. The new Walter Henshaw, the one who started over at 64, he asked questions, learned constantly, stayed humble, and built something sustainable and smart. If you're watching this and you failed at something, a business, a career, a relationship, a dream, I want you to know something. That failure doesn't define you. What you do next defines you. You think you're too old? I was 64. You think you don't have enough money? I had $12,000. You think the market's changed too much? That's exactly why there's opportunity. The world needs what you learned the hard way. Your experience, your perspective, your resilience, those are valuable, more valuable than you realize. Eleanor tells me I should write a book about all this. Maybe I will. But for now, I'm just enjoying life with my wife, playing with grandkids, and occasionally mentoring young entrepreneurs who remind me of my younger self, full of confidence they haven't earned yet. I tell them all the same thing. Go ahead and make your mistakes. Build your empire, but stay humble, keep learning, and remember, if you lose it all, that's not the end. That's just where the real story begins. My name is Walter Henshaw. I was bankrupt at 62. I rebuilt from nothing at 64. I sold my second company for $98 million at 73. And at 80, I can tell you the truth about success. It's not about never falling down. It's about getting back up one more time than you fall. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go write yours.